Lions, tigers, and bears, oh my!
Atomic submarines, goalie mass serial killers, and aliens, oh my!
Secret agents, fuzzy gophers, and spandex-clad heroes, oh my!
It's Sonic Cinema on 90.3 WHPC.
I'm Ray Schwetz. Welcome to a special Sonic Cinema interview segment with filmmaker Brian Skiba, whose latest flick, Clear Cut, stars Vikings fan favorite Clive Standen as a logger on the run from some very bad people, as well as Stephen Dorff and Alec Baldwin in supporting roles. The film is a showcase of stunt work and mostly on-set pyrotechnics, reminiscent of the action hero films of the 80s and 90s. Brian, welcome to Sonic Cinema, and thanks for talking with us today.
Hi, Ray. Thanks for having me on. Great to meet you.
Oh, I'm very excited. Yep, I saw the film yesterday and loved it. A lot of fun. Clear Cut really does remind me of those old school action hero flicks of the 80s and 90s. It's a very fresh take, though, the way that you present the story also in flashback. Can you tell us a little bit about that approach, and was that initially your approach?
I can't take all the credit for myself. You know, the writer had structured it, had structured some of it that way. You know, it was, I'm not always one for flashbacks. I don't know that the device always works, but when I read the initial script, I was, his use of it was like, okay, this is, it allows you to have some aha moments and then, really kind of strengthen our characters on the screen. It's not so much just meatheads shooting each other up as it is, wait a minute, there's some depth here. There's some real motivations, and this guy's doing it for, he's doing what he's doing for some real reasons that I think a lot of people could relate to, family and love and things like this. And so there's some deep intrinsic value there. And so we really started expounding upon that and then trying to find the exact moments to hit those notes throughout the edit, so the pacing felt good. And I think it worked out.
Yeah, there were a few times during the film that I was watching it and I'm thinking, all right, well, yeah, I get where this is going. This is a lot of fun and I'm just enjoying it. But I'm thinking, oh, it's really not going to be anything more than that. And then all of a sudden, pow, things just change. You get a new view of the person's motivation and what's going on. And I also felt like it helped you, it surprised you with, you didn't know where people's loyalties were. You almost didn't know who was a good guy and a bad guy at one point. So very, very effective device. So how'd the project come together and how'd you become involved?
I was initially supposed to do a Bruce Willis movie with the producer Corey Large. We had it picked out and it was supposed to go, and then Bruce just got too ill and retired. And so Corey came back to me and said, "Hey man, can we find something else? You have anything you want to do?" And this script had been sitting kind of in my war chest for a while. The writer of the second, Eric Bromberg, had given it to me and saying, "Hey, here's a cool script." And so I flipped it over to Corey and said, "Hey, here's something cool that I think is kind of fresh and yet can be done for the budget that you're talking about and the amount of time, and I think that's key when picking scripts, is you're looking at budget and time of shooting. Can you achieve something viable?" And so sure enough, that's how it really got. That's how I picked it. And then the producers picked it because they had it covered by a distributor, and the distributor was like, "Yeah, we like this."
Did you have Clive Standen in mind always for that role, or were there others that you considered?
We did consider others, but Clive was always there from the forefront. It was all, the producers had always been like, "Hey, they had worked with Clive before. I had not, but they were like, Clive's, we think Clive would be great for this part." I agreed with them because Rollo is one of my favorite characters in Vikings. And in the end, he got the part. It all worked out, money and schedule and all that. So I was extremely happy with it, and even more happy after I got to know Clive and his work ethic and the type of person he is. I mean, he's an absolute gentleman.
Yeah, that was something I really need to ask you, if you had any Rollo war stories with him, or if there was anything that happened on set that was kind of fun with him and his character.
No, so Clive and I got invited because we were filming on First Nations land. We were in Duncan, Vancouver, British Columbia. We were in Duncan. We were shooting on First Nations land, and one of their leaders actually invited us to do a sweat lodge, one of those sweat things. And so I asked around and I went, they said, just invite some of the cast. It's not very big. We have 10 spots, but invite some of the cast. So I started going around telling everybody, yeah, man, we're going to do a sweat because I had done them before. I loved them. And the only guy who showed up was Clive. Everybody's like, yeah, I'm in, but then all of them bounced, nobody showed up except for Clive and Lucy, Lucy, who's also in the film, but is also his real life girlfriend. So is my wife, Lori Love, Clive and Lucy, Lucy, and we're all jamming this, in this thing, sweating, just in our skivvies. And it was a bonding experience, man. I mean, it was amazing. And the fact that Clive was there and we all shared this amazing moment together is something we'll always remember. And that's Clive's personality, I mean, that's really who he is.
You mentioned Vancouver. I mean, the scenery is almost another character in the film. It's just so beautiful. What was it like shooting there?
Yeah, I mean, you aim the camera and it's easy to shoot because it looks so good. I mean, typically you're shooting in some urban landscape and you're like, you got to move and light it just right. And this place was like, hey, it looks good there, it looks great there, And so yeah, it was great. And like I said, we were shooting on First Nations land and they were very opening and the land just had a really nice vibe to it. You could feel the spirituality around you. It was cool. I mean, technically it's a little hard because you had to drag generators and lights out there to get it to work. But, once you accomplish that, it was great, man. I really enjoyed it.
Another thing that I thought was very breathtaking was the stunt work and the pyrotechnics. That's just something that you just don't see it nowadays in film. First of all, I just want to say thank you for bringing that back, and I hope that continues a trend. Was there a very conscious choice on your part to kind of go in that direction?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, all my action films, I always strive for practicality. It's let's do real stunts, real explosions, blanks, all that stuff. And we're very conscious about our safety and those aspects of it. But I think that's it's becoming very much a lost form. There's a green screen and then everybody adds everything later. Whereas there's definitely an art there, and I enjoy that art. I enjoy the stunt community and what it brings, and so I'll always champion it in all of my films.
In an action film, when they use a lot of computer graphics stuff, it just doesn't feel real, even when it's done really well. And when you see the films of folks like Hal Needham, and you see films with Kane Hodder as the stunt double, these are guys who. They really brought it, and that's part of the performance. Working with the stunt community, I'd like to talk a little bit about that. Interesting stories from some of the stunt crew that you worked with.
I had my guy James Logan up there, and then we had the Canadian stunt coordinator John, and it was the community up there is like amazing. We ended up getting a lot of the people off Supernatural because they had just wrapped up, and so. We had some of the stunt guys off that. And it was funny. We had this one guy who's actually a U.S. military. He spent a whole lot of time in the military. He scars everywhere. He'd been shot up, and now he does stunts. And his main thing is fire burns. And he's actually the big guy that's on fire. That when the car blows up behind him and his arm's on fire, and then he gets shot. That's that guy. And after, we were all amped up. I'm on the camera, I'm shooting, I'm right there with him. The car blows up, he's on fire, everything's done. They run in, they put him out. I hand the camera off, and it was actually the last shot of the night. We were done that night. We were wrapping up. So I call it's a wrap, and this guy goes, "Whoa," and jumps and gives me a hug and jams my face into all the gel and everything. and it was fun, man. And that's the thing is, you really get the real energy on set. And I think it translates through.
So talking about the cast, Clive, amazing. He's a standout. That really shows that he can shoulder a film. What was it like working with some of the other cast members? Because you had a couple of big people there, and you always wonder, is it tough to deal with them? Are there egos involved? You have Stephen Dorff, you have Alec Baldwin, both actors I respect, and Alec Baldwin, even in a small part like Glenn Ross, he can bring so much. What was it like working with the two of them?
Stephen's a really close friend, and Alec has become one. It's definitely like, these guys are they're always trying to find directors that allow them their space, because they are, they're so seasoned, they've been around forever, and they have honed their crafts where their axe is sharp, and Dorff, this is his world. The set is his temple, and if you disrespect it, you're going to get your head bit off, And so he looks for filmmakers and people like that also think that way, that this, the set's the temple, and respect it and love it. Baldwin's very similar in that aspect, where it's like, this is his love, this is his craft, this is where he wants every shot to be great and really feel the moments, and so it was outstanding to work with guys of that level, and even though I've been doing this for a while, it's like every day when you work with those guys, you still learn something new, and that's refreshing.
Thank you again for the work that you did with Clear Cut, with bringing back the big macho action films of the 80s and 90s and bringing something fresh to it as well. Very exciting stuff.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Brian, great to meet you. And again, I had a lot of fun with the film. Good luck.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Ray. Thank you.
I'm Ray Schwetz, your host and producer. This has been a special Sonic Cinema interview segment with filmmaker Brian Skiba, director of Clear Cut for Lionsgate Films, starring Clive Standen, Alec Baldwin, and Stephen Dorff. It's in theaters and on digital. Join us for your movie music fix every Sunday from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Sunday nights on Alexa, iHeartRadio, Odyssey, TuneIn, on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.